Hello everybody and welcome back to the Tomb Raider Underworld walkthrough. It's time to finish off the Beneath the Ashes DLC. So yes, in the next half an hour we will have completed the entirety of this DLC. That just goes to show how goddamn short it is. I mean, having said that, I have certainly paid more for less experience, as proven by Child of Eden, because I paid like 32 quid for that, and in essence that's a 2-hour game. Although having said that, thankfully there's a lot of replay value available in that. Here, no. For a tenner you get very, very, very little value for money. But having said that, there are some fun little puzzles that we get to get involved with in the later half of the DLC here. Well, there's certainly one that most definitely involves the grappling hook. There's actually one which we are working our way to now, which also involves the grappling hook. Well, specifically the wire. It's the wire that's the important bit. So, yeah, there's a couple of interesting wire tricks that we get to go with. But there's not a whole lot left to go, really. So I suppose I will use this time to return to the whole thing of infographics that I was discussing quite a while ago now. I think it was when we were muddling our way through coastal Thailand. I brought up about an infographic that was about CGI hair. And I believe at that time I also said that I'd also found another infographic which was quite interesting. And I think that now is a decent time to have a look at that. Obviously, I would like to just point out that this is the grapple wire thing that I was talking about a few moments ago. It's actually really clever, because what you've got to do is use physics. And you do that. That's just quite cool. It's more clever than any of the grapple stuff they did in the entirety of the game. It's such a simple idea, but it's just like, oh, well, that's interesting. I quite like it. But yes, there is a quite fun infographic which charts the many faces of Lara Croft Tomb Raider, going from the very first game in 1996 to her most recent appearance in the reboot. Obviously it doesn't have Rise of the Tomb Raider yet, because that game is not out yet as of this recording. But that will be another change to her design, frustratingly. But, I mean, the thing that's slightly funny about Lara is that basically, in every single game, she has been redesigned to some degree. In most instances, it's improving things, but sometimes they do just like to change it. So there's obviously the first Tomb Raider, which apparently consisted of 540 polygons. Considering how much more they use nowadays, it's kind of bonkers that it was only 540. But having said that, the promo art was a heck of a lot more detailed. And while it's constantly brought up that her bust size is huge, and it was caused by a mistake or something, what's actually the issue is that because Lara's waist is really unrealistically tiny, it makes everything else look a lot bigger than it actually is. So while Lara's always been busty, she's not really unrealistically busty. It's just the waist area that makes everything look a little bit more ridiculous. But the important thing to note about the original in-game Tomb Raider model is that while Lara had the ponytail in promotional art, it wasn't, and also in the cutscenes I think, it isn't there in-game because they just could not get the damn thing to work. Thankfully, when it came to Tomb Raider 2 and Tomb Raider 3, they did actually manage to get it working. They also kind of just changed things to do with the clothing a little bit, so they cut the top lower, because evidently they realised what their market was at that point in time. And her boot laces changed colour, because that's an incredibly important thing to change. But basically, at that point, Eidos heavily promoted Lara's sex appeal, so that's where she got the whole thing of being a sex icon. And like that stuff was, there was a lot of that stuff back in the day. Like, I mean, I still remember it's the naked photo shoot thing with Duke Nukem covering the boobs. I still remember that publicity shot, which is just balmy. I don't quite know how I've managed to see it, but yeah, so it was the 1997-1998 where they started to go along with that. There was some slight changes to the face as well. Obviously, it got improved, but also sort of they narrowed her eyes, made the face a little more chiseled because it was really blocky. Then you get Tomb Raider The Last Revelation in 1999 and Tomb Raider Chronicles in 2000, which used the same model. God knows what they did to Lara's face, it looks absolutely hideous, but what the hey. The main thing that happened in that is that if she was curvy in Tomb Raider 2 and 3, she got even more voluptuous. The width of her shoulders were reduced, her tank top was even lower cut. But what's slightly odd is that the promo figure didn't have quite so nearly a low-cut top and looked a heck of a lot more modest. And then Lara went quiet for a couple of years. So after having a game every single year, from 1996 to 2000, she disappeared for a bit. Then we got Tomb Raider, The Angel of Darkness in 2003, which went ahead, well, really, really dark. Specifically, it was inspired by the Tomb Raider film, though she didn't don the shorts until the end of the film. Speaking about Angelina Jolie as Lara Croft, I still need to probably watch that film at some point, just out of curiosity, really. But also, they had, like, a lot darker eyeliner, lipstick, because it had normally been sort of very natural, would probably be the way I would describe Lara for the first batch of games, and then they went for this really dark tone. And her muscle and bone structure were much more natural, and for the first time in the series, her in-game model directly resembles the promotional material. Obviously, because by the time of the PS2, that was a possibility. You can't really have the CGI quality on the PS1. In-game, it doesn't happen. And then after that, Lara went quiet for 3 years again. Largely because, yeah, Angel of Darkness did terribly. And then development shifted to Crystal Dynamics, and we got Tomb Raider Legend, which I would say is a definite improvement on the model, because vaguely more realistic. I mean, it's still very cartoony, but it's certainly a lot, well, it's definitely higher quality. But it ditched the whole tank top for brown t-shirts. The fact that they had a lot better processing allowed for a 5,000 polygon model. So in the space of 10 years, Lara went from 540 polygons to 5,000, which is pretty awesome. And they also changed the hair, because they got rid of the braided ponytail that had become so prevalent, and switched it to just a more loose ponytail. And also gave her more natural looking skin. And they kind of did shift back to there being differences between the in-game model and the box art, but it wasn't that large. Then you had Tomb Raider Anniversary, which brought back the familiar kind of blue top, brown short shorts and stuff, and it had a heck of a lot more texture than the original game. I mean, it's basically the original outfit, just much better quality. But in general, the model was identical to Legends' one, except the textures and the hairstyle were of a higher quality, but also just sort of sorted to suit the game a bit more.
Lara, your doppelganger just walked past the trailer. It looked right at me, but kept on walking, and it's heading your way.
That's not good. I'd need an army to stop that thing.
Well, hopefully we can get an army, otherwise we're kind of screwed, aren't we? But the other thing that they did with Anniversary is Lara's hair got more brown and less reddish, which it had become in Legend, and also Angel of Darkness, because Angel of Darkness it was very much more red, and then it went to a sort of lighter browny red, and then it went back to being a sort of dark brown. And then we get to Tomb Raider Underworld, where Lara has 32,816 polygons, making her the most detailed video game character ever, according to the Guinness World Records, in 2008. Which is impressive. So, in the space of 2 years, Lara gained over 6 times as many polygons. Yeah, we made quite a technological leap at that point. I mean, obviously it's because the next generation of consoles came out, because you had the Xbox 360 and the PS3, and they were much more powerful. And what's interesting is that the promotional art drew attention to the fact that Lara's kind of got much more muscly, as well as slightly more cat-shaped eyes, and a more pronounced M in the lips. And then that model was brought back, sort of, in Lara Croft and the Guardian of Light in 2010, which is that isometric-y, top-down, puzzle shooter thingy. I've never played it, I probably should, seeing as it's the only vestige of old Lara anymore. But it's not my type of game, I don't think. But basically it brought back the blue tank top while keeping the toned look from Underworld. And what's quite funny is that they paired her for the first time with a male character who wore even less than she did. And the promotional arts, well, all that sort of stuff, painted one of the most true-to-life Lara Crofts that had ever been seen up until that point. But when you look at the in-game model, it's certainly a lower quality, shall we say, than the Underworld one. Largely because it's so small in-game. So yeah, there's just something slightly plastic about it, because it's like the hair's very kind of stiff. Whereas what you get with the Underworld one is there's sort of strands. It's still sort of like a texture, but it works a bit better, I feel. And then we got the reboots, which obviously was going to be different because it was a younger Lara before she donned matching hip holsters. And she looked much more like a real person because they ditched the anatomical exaggerations, used kind of motion capture for everything. I mean, they already had used motion capture, but I think they used Camilla Luddington's motion capture for almost everything, whereas here they had like a professional gymnast for Lara's motion capture, whereas they went with an actress for the reboots. But what's kind of bonkers is that the box art Lara looks completely different to the in-game model, and it's gotten even more strange since then, because while I would say that sort of the Lara of the reboot is recognisably Lara, it is still slightly off. I mean, that's fine, but then they've gone on along the whole route of making Lara look even less like Lara. I mean, they improved things dramatically from the console edition to the PC edition because of like the resurface hair stuff and new stuff to do with the lighting and the textures and all of that. But then I have absolutely no idea what they did for the definitive edition. I look at it and I'm just like, that's not the same character that you had in the console edition or the PC edition, so what the heck's going on there? And it's just getting even weirder after that. Now, if you want to have a look at this infographic, it's, I think, on HalloweenCostumes.com, written by a guy called Robert Brown, and yeah, it's really cool, and I'm pretty sure that there's also numerous videos on the internet that show you the evolution of Lara Croft, which I just think's really cool. Any opportunity to see the evolution of video game franchises is something to be kind of embraced, I think. Because it's amazing to see where you've come from, how things have changed, have those changes been good or not, and so on and so forth. And I'm very glad that I went on that nice little tangent, because it's taken us through pretty much the majority of the last bit of this DLC. I should point out that we got the relic back there. It's not quite that difficult to pick up. In fact, that was surprisingly easy once you know where you're going. But then we have this rather awesome puzzle, once again with the grappling wire. This is another of the instances where it comes into play, where it's, you've just got to think about the physics of things. And it works. And also because I like it because it's got dragons involved in it, and as I'm sure many people are aware, I am a massive fan of dragons. You can tell I'm excited for Scalebound. Now, if you don't kind of make sure that you look and just think a bit carefully about where you're going with this, you may get yourself a little bit stuck, because to pull these bits back down you do need to use that particular statue, and then you need to go around the left hand statue to get it like over here. But it's a simple puzzle once you get your head around it, but it's very, very, very easy to screw yourself over a little bit if you're not thinking carefully. It's also surprisingly easy to fall off and fall into the water here, meaning you have to climb all the way back up. I think it is possible to save at some point around here, which will save you the hassle, but I can't quite remember where that point is. But either way, we are very, very, very near the end of the DLC now, because our end point is literally just across the body of water to our left. It's something that you probably could have spotted when we came into the room. I didn't point it out because I was too busy talking about Lara's face and model and all of that jazz. But we are very, very, very close. And this is our penultimate challenge. 2 massive pillars that are really, really, really desperate to kill us. Like, really stupidly desperate. Now at this point there are... oh gosh. I think it's about 3 treasures left. One is up there, one was behind the grates there, and another is really, really, really evil. And you can't get the last 2 until basically your final checkpoint. But what is quite nice is that once you are up here, it is possible to get yourself back up as long as you... I think you have to grab onto something. I think grappling is probably definitely the way. Yes, there we go. Because once you have grappled there, you will knock that little handhold down, and then you can get back up to the grapple hook. Which, my god, you are going to need. Because this jump is horrible. It's really, really challenging. Obviously you've got to be a very specific height to get it. And it's very tight. But thankfully that's done. And now it's just a case of get to the end. Obviously we have our final 2 wonderful treasures to get. But one of them's nice and easy, one of them's a pain. But in general, there's very little left. Now, technically there are credits for Tomb Raider, well, for Beneath the Ashes. I'm pretty sure that they are identical to the main Tomb Raider Underworld credits, apart from the fact that it has Beneath the Ashes beneath the title. I probably would have shown them off, but my recording software decided that it was going to have a scranny at me and cut out in the middle of those credits. And I was just like, I'm done, they look exactly the same. So I guess now is sort of my time to give my sort of final thoughts on Beneath the Ashes. And basically, it's fun. It's more Tomb Raider Anniversary. It's more Tomb Raider Underworld. Oh dear. It's just more of the same. It's fun. It's not really got a whole lot of replayability to it, considering how much the damn thing costs. And in terms of plot, it does only one thing, and that is just explain why Lara is in a particular location. and just one little thing, and that is it. It serves very little purpose and doesn't really do a whole lot. So it's certainly not the best DLC we could have hoped for the game, but I guess it's something, and it's not like it's completely broken. It's buggy, don't get me wrong, but it's there. It just would have been nice, I guess, if they had allowed PlayStation players to play it as well. And that's basically all I have to say. Now we need to get our final treasure, which is in this horrible little pipe hole here thingy there. And all I can say is that is a horrible jump. Your only hope of getting safely there is just by saving on top of the pillar like I did, and then you can get the one that was behind the bars very easily, and then it's just a case of trying to get to here. Thankfully, getting out of it is very easy, but getting in, it's just a very challenging thing of positioning and timing. But we have made it to our final challenge, which is actually surprisingly very, very simple and easy. Because while thralls will continually spawn from these 3 doors, all you need to do is shut the gates on them. Which is done literally just by jumping up and grabbing on to the bars. And you don't really need to do a whole lot of fighting. Which is slightly balmy. Now also, lowering these bars will basically open up another gate. So you just got to do all 4 and then you're sorted, really. There's not really a whole lot else to it, and really I probably could have done this quite a lot quicker if I'd just kind of just paid some slight attention to what I was doing. But the other really funny thing is that if you do this quick enough, then the thralls don't really have time to spawn. And you can just trap them and then, yeah. But that is it. It's time to head into this room and hopefully find out what that artifact says on it. And plot. But that is Beneath the Ashes complete.
Eshivar. Kill. Eshivar. You have to do whatever I ask now, correct? Make sure Natla suffers.
You're letting her go? She killed Alistair.
And now she is the instrument of his vengeance.